Okay. Today what we're gonna do, it's gonna be pretty easy because we're not really learning anything new today. However, our answers are gonna look a tad bit differently. How have our answers in solving equations been? What type of numbers have our answers been ever since we started, pretty much? Integers, right? And what's an integer? What's an integer?
A whole number and its opposite.
There you go. It's a whole number and its opposite. So it could be -2, +3, 0. Could be -8, -19, -47. Okay, it could be any of those. They've been whole numbers and their opposites. Well, do you think that they're always going to end up being nice, pretty whole numbers? No. Okay, so we started off that way, but you can also have these long decimals as answers. Now, today we're going to talk about showing your work and getting those fractions, because our answers, what does it say our answers are going to be? Fractions, okay, and I'll show you and tell you why here in a second, okay, and I'll also show you how to check it with your calculator, okay. So this is what I told you. What did I tell you was going to be your best friend throughout the rest of the year? Math Inner, okay? So the nice thing is even when we get these long decimals, I'm not going to want you to write the long decimals. I'm just going to want you to write the reduced fraction form. Okay, so for example, again, 3/4, instead of writing, I know this could also be 0.75, I want the fraction form. And again, it's easily accessible to you guys by just hitting Math Inner on your calculator. So let's go through our basic steps here. Here's number 1. What do we have to do first? Knowing our steps.
Times 3 by
Okay, and that's called what, Macy? Distributive property. Let's do distributive property. So yes, we multiply 3 times x. Oops, hold on. 3 times x, which is 3x. And then what's 3 times -2? -6 equals -8. Okay, it's a basic 2-step equation. Add 6. Add 6. What's -8 plus 6?
2. Or -2.
-2. And then bring down your 3x. Next, what do? Divide by 3 on both sides. So, if you type in your calculator -2/3, it'll give you a decimal. However, again, we don't want the decimals. We're not going to leave the decimals as our answers. Leave it in reduced fraction form. So, what's the reduced fraction form of -2/3?
-2.
-2/3, or -2/3. That is reduced fraction form. So, these are a little bit harder to check, but they're really not. Okay, I know x equals -2/3. So what we're going to do is store it for x. So everybody get your calculator out. Okay, so everybody get your calculator out. And what are we going to store for x again?
2.
It's what? So I'm going to put them in parentheses. Just get in the habit of putting your fractions in parentheses. So do parentheses, -2 divided by 3, close parentheses. So that's -2/3. We're going to store it, the STO arrow button, for x. And then hit enter. So now, every time, again, we type in x, it's going to use -2/3. So let's retype in the equation. 3 parentheses, x, oops, I didn't hit x. X minus 2, close parentheses, hit enter. What do you get? Should it equal -8?
Yeah.
Then there we go. Since it equaled -8, we got the correct answer. Now, -2/3 is -0.6 repeating. Why do you think that I want you guys to use the fraction versus a rounded decimal? Okay, if you put the rounded decimal, I would count it wrong. Why? Because what? What is this sign in here? An equal sign. So if I put, 0.67, let's say I rounded 0.6 repeating, or negative 0.6 repeating, and I wrote negative 0.7. Do you think when I plug in negative 0.7 that it's going to equal negative 8 exactly? No. So that is why we can't round. You can't round and get the closest number. They will never ask you to round because it's an equal sign. I want it to equal exactly. Remember, just like on a balance, okay? If you want it to balance exactly, it's got to be exact on this side and exact on that side. It can't just be a little bit above here, a little bit below over here. It's got to be exact. So that's why we leave our answers in reduced fraction form. So let's look at number 2, basic two-step equation. Okay, add 93, add 93. So we've got a negative 108 plus 93. What is that total?
Negative 15.
Negative 15. And then bring down your 4a. Divide by your coefficient. A equals, now you guys can type this if you're good with fractions. Like, I already know that that's going to be reduced because I know nothing can go into negative 15 and nothing can go into 4, both of those, so it's already going to be reduced. Now if you're not sure, again, still type it in your calculator and hit math enter. So this time you would store negative 15 fourths in for x and then type in 4x minus 93. You should get negative 108. Okay. Let's look at number 3. We've got to do a little distributive property. I see parentheses. So distribute your negative 2. Negative 2 times 7 is?
Negative 14.
Negative 14. What's a negative 2 times a negative z?
Positive 2z.
A positive 2z equals 20. Now we're down to basic two-step. We're going to add 14. That's the opposite. Add 14. So that's 34, right? And then bring down your 2z. Divide by your coefficient. What does z equals? 17. So this one actually does not have a fraction as an answer. So it won't always have fractions. They could still end up being whole numbers. But again, when you plug them back in and check them, you know for sure or not if you got it right. All right, let's look at number 4. Okay, what are we going to do here first?
You're going to add the negative 8 and the negative 2.
Very good. That's called combining like terms. Now, are we going to do the opposites for them? Or just combine them? Combine them, again, because they are on the same side. When they're on the same side, you're going to keep their signs, but add them together. So negative 8 plus negative 2 is a negative 10. And then bring down your 3x. Bring down your equals negative 14. Now you're down to a basic two-step. Add 10. Add 10. What's negative 14 plus 10? Negative 4. Bring down your 3x. Divide by your coefficient. X equals, what is that?
Negative 4 over 3.
Negative 4 over 3. I know that can't be reduced any further. Even if it gives you like a decent decimal, like 3.75, like that's a short decimal, still go ahead and hit math enter and leave it in that reduced fraction form. Okay, don't be afraid of fractions. Again, you have that math enter, so it's really not hard for you guys to get it in that form. look at number 5. Okay, can we do distributed property? No. So then let's combine what we can on the left. What are like terms on the left?
2x and 3x.
Positive 2x and a positive 3x. They're on the same side, so 2x plus 3x is 5x, and it's a positive 5x. And then bring down your negative 8. And bring down your equals 11x. Okay, now here's where some of you guys are still, coming into a roadblock. But again, just ask yourself, again, I've got variables on opposite sides. So I don't want them on both sides, I want them on one. So pick the smaller term and move it in this case. So which one's smaller, 11x or positive 5x?
Positive 5.
So how do we move it? Do the opposite.
Minus 5x.
Minus 5x. What you do to one side, do to the other. So if I have 11 x's and take away 5, I'm left with
6.
6x. And then bring down your negative 8. Now am I going to divide by negative 8 or divide by 6? Divide by 6 because we want to get the x by itself. So divide by 6. Divide by 6. So what does x equal? What's negative 8 divided by 6? Hit math, enter, enter.
4/3.
Negative 4/3. Okay. All right. Let's look at number 6. What does that negative in front of the parentheses represent? A negative 1. So now we got to distribute a negative 1. Negative 1 times 3 is?
Negative 3.
Negative 1 times a positive z.
It is negative z.
Negative z equals 4z. So before we start moving to 3, if we even need to, I got z's on both sides. Which one should I move? The 4z or the negative z?
The negative z.
The negative z. And so perform the opposite. So it's a minus z or a negative z. So you add z. Those cancel out. What you do one side. So that equals 5z. And then bring down your negative 3. And then what are we going to divide by?
5.
Divide by 5. Divide by 5. So z equals
Negative 3.
negative 3/5. Now, how do we check these in the calculator again when you have variables on both sides?
You put them in parentheses and store x.
Okay, store it for x. And remember, this total has to what? Equal that total. Okay? So remember, you get a total up here, and you get a total for this side of the equation, and then they should equal each other. If they don't, then you went down a wrong path somewhere. Okay, we got a couple more. All right. Can we do distributed property?
Yes.
We can?
No, not distributed.
No, but we can do what? Combine like terms. So I've got s here, a negative 2s. Make sure you're circling the signs. Oh, and I've got what over here?
4x.
4s. Okay, so let's think. If I have 8 s's and I take away 2, I'm left with 6. And then I also need to add 4 s's, so 6 plus 4 is 10. I've got 10s. Bring down your plus 3 equals 22. So then you minus 3, minus 3. That gives you 19. Bring down your 10s. Divide by your coefficient. If you're not sure what, if 19 tenths is reduced, type it in your calculator. 19 divided by 10. Hit math, enter, enter. Is it reduced already? No?
Yeah.
Yes? 19 divided by 10, math enter. Should be. Because 2 doesn't go into those evenly. 3 doesn't go into those evenly.
That's what I meant.
You what?
That's what I meant.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Gotcha. So S equals 19 tenths. And again, if you're not sure, plug it in for S. Okay? Store it and then, or do X in your calculator. Then type in 8x minus 2x plus 3 plus 4x, and you should get 22. Okay? All right, let's look at number 8. We're kind of looking back at the fractions. What should we go ahead and do first? Should we clear the fraction or get rid of the minus 10?
Clear the fraction.
We can, but it's going to be a little bit more work because if you multiply by 5, then you got to multiply this times 5, and you got to multiply that times 5. I'd rather go ahead and get rid of the 10. Okay? By adding 10 first. Adding 10. 23 plus 10 is 33. Bring down your 4/5 x. Now let's clear the fraction. So we're going to multiply by. That cancels the divide by 5. What you do to one side, do to the other. Now what's 33 divided by 5? Times 5.
165.
165. And then what do we have remaining on the left side of the equal sign? A 4 what? X. So bring down your 4x. Then we're going to divide by our coefficient. So type in your calculator, 165 divided by 4. Hit math enter. What do you get?
165 over 4.
Okay, so that's already reduced. Okay. All right, any questions?